federal indictment was unsealed recently that shows hundreds of migrants from Central America are being smuggled into the U.S. and forced to work as slave labor in Georgia and other parts of the country. Farron Cousins from Trial Lawyer Magazine joins me now to talk about it. Farron, there's all this discussion about the border. Two parts of the discussion that the media won't touch. I don't know why they won't touch it, whether it's a political volleyball or what it is, political hot potato. They won't talk about that these kids are being sex trafficked. Okay, we know that. Yep. We're handling sex trafficking cases. We know firsthand what's happened. Media's not talking about it. But this is absolute 2021 slavery, not just in Georgia, but they were finally caught in Georgia. Pick it up.
Right. This was an organized crime ring of what they uncovered just in the state of Georgia. They're bringing these people across the border, of course, illegally. Once they get here, they take all their documentation, much like they do with sex trafficking victims. They force them into these conditions, into these, big giant warehouses almost, and they say, listen, you work for us now. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. We have your documentation. Go out there, start picking the onions. And for every basket of onions you bring back, we'll give you 15 cents. And that is essentially how this scam worked. So these people have no way out. And it's not even like they can go to authorities to say something because they've been brought into the country illegally and there's no way out.
It is nauseating to me because the narrative, the narrative that the corporate media wants you to believe is this is all out of compassion. We're bringing these people across the border out of pure compassion. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce in business America, they don't care about compassion here. They're bringing them over the border because it's cheap labor. You see, used to be we had to ship our jobs overseas for cheap labor. Hell, bring them in now. Make them work for $2 an hour. And these working conditions, they found out they weren't allowed to leave the facility. They were drinking contaminated water, contaminated food, and they weren't even permitted to have a chance to leave the facility. I don't know why the media won't talk about it other than this. It doesn't fit the Biden and Kamala Harris narrative. That's why they're not talking about this. That's why they're not talking about these children that they can't find are being sex trafficked.
Well, and we also, you brought up the Chamber of Commerce. We got to hit back on that because that organization, the Chamber of Commerce, has been fighting against any kind of immigration reform. It's one of the few areas where they don't agree with the Republican Party because the people who are the corporations that are a part of the chamber, they rely on this cheap labor. And it's a lot of food processing plants. I think Tyson actually was a big part of that several years ago in another story that we had covered here because they like the labor. We just saw the plant busted, 2 years ago in Mississippi, I think?
Yes.
It filled with illegal immigrants, and they got the immigrants, but they didn't go after the leadership.
And it's all about, we're bringing them across for compassion. I can promise you the U.S. Chamber of Commerce doesn't give a damn about compassion, and the media won't talk about it because it doesn't fit that tight little Biden-Kamala Harris discussion. It's a disgusting story. We're going to do more on it. It's really a story that is being ignored. A new investigation has found that the CIA has been covering up evidence of sexual crimes against children by their own agents. Wow. This headline on this is their talking point. CIA, they got them dead rights. Child molestation, use of all types of child pornography at the CIA headquarters. And you know what the response is? We can't prosecute them because we're afraid that we're going to give up secrets if we prosecute them.
I don't even understand how that is related to these people being clearly pedophiles, which is what's happening here. Prosecuting somebody for these sexual crimes, which some of them have admitted to, or as you said, they've been caught red-handed, and you think somehow that's going to give up state secrets? That is absolutely irrelevant to any prosecution that would take place here. What matters is the crime they committed, and of course, the abuse of their office. Many of them using office equipment to look up child pornography, to store child pornography, to get off on pictures of abused children, one of them was.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking about children being physically abused in some perv working for the CIA. It's right on their computer. They've got it all dead rights. And the CIA says, oh, well, We're afraid if we prosecute that person, so many secrets are going to. Really? I mean, I guess the combination is you can be a perv, you can be a serial perv and work for the CIA and never be prosecuted for it. That's what this story stands for, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And so far, over the last couple of years, they've had 14 instances that these investigative reporters at BuzzFeed found. And that's just what they were able to find. God knows it's probably well more than that. So 14 instances, 10 individuals fired or resigned. They were given the chance to resign.
All of them could have been prosecuted under normal terms. Every one of them could have been prosecuted. The U.S. attorney, they buy in. Of course, you know my attitude about the U.S. attorney's office. If it's not low-hanging fruit, they won't mess with it at all. It's the most dysfunctional organization that we're counting on to abide by law, make people abide by the law. But here, the CIA, I swear to God, the bottom line is you can be a serial pervert, child abuse, child pornography. You could have it on your computer. We know it's illegal that anybody else would have been prosecuted for. They walk. One person, 1 out of 14 prosecuted.
Well, and we have other government agencies where this has been happening as well. And those agencies actually did prosecute these individuals.
Department of Defense.
Right. And so what is the difference there? Okay, you have state secrets. CIA has state secrets. These people, they weren't worried about prosecuting them without, giving up the game. So there is a big disconnect. It's total BS, to be honest with you, that these prosecutors won't bring charges against these people.
It's laziness, man. It's laziness, and they're worried about, are they going to lose their job by overstepping their power? That's all it's about. But the CIA, these are their words. We can't allow them to testify. This is what the CIA says about these pervs. The other thing that they say is it'll take years. This is their response to this. We'd love to do something about it, but it would take years to provide the documentation because we have to clean it up. That's our CIA at work.